When Malcolm pushed open the door to their childhood home, that rainy afternoon the last thing he expected to see was his identical twin brother Leonardo wrapped in the arms of another man. The kiss they shared wasn't just affection, it was the spark that would ignite a firestorm of betrayal and collapse the Reed family from the inside out. Malcolm stood frozen in the doorway of the two-story colonial in suburban Chicago, rain dripping from his coat onto the hardwood floor, his heart hammering so loud, he was sure they could hear it. Leonardo pulled back, first eyes wide with the same blue-green shade that had mirrored Malcolm's own reflection for 28 years. The man with him, Ryan from the downtown design firm, stepped away, awkwardly adjusting his glasses. "Mal, I can explain," Leonardo started, but Malcolm was already backing up the words caught in his throat like shards of glass. They had always been the Reed twins, inseparable since birth, finishing each other's sentences, sharing the same bedroom until college, even working summer jobs together at their father's logistics company. Robert Reed, the stern patriarch, had built an empire on hard work and traditional values, preaching at the dinner table that a man's duty was to marry, raise kids, and keep the family name clean. Their mother Margaret baked apple pies and volunteered at church, while their younger sister Emily dreamed of medical school. In that picture-perfect world, there was no room for secrets, especially not the kind Malcolm had buried so deep he sometimes forgot they existed. But seeing Leonardo with Ryan cracked something open. Malcolm had suspected for months, the late nights, the sudden smiles at his phone, the way Leonardo sketches filled with male figures lately. He himself had dated women like Sarah, the marketing coordinator everyone said was perfect for him because she laughed at his jokes and never asked too many questions. Yet every time Malcolm kissed Sarah, he felt hollow, like he was performing for an audience that included his father's approving nod. Now here was his brother living the truth Malcolm was too terrified to touch. That night after Ryan left and the house settled into uneasy silence, Malcolm cornered Leonardo in the garage where their old basketball hoop still hung crooked. "How long?" he demanded, voice low so their parents upstairs wouldn't hear. Leonardo leaned against the workbench, arms crossed, the same defiant tilt to his chin Malcolm had seen in the mirror 1,000 times. "6 months. Ryan makes me feel seen, Mal, for the first time. I'm tired of pretending." Malcolm's stomach twisted. He wanted to shout that he understood, that he had stared at men in the gym and felt the same pull, but the fear of their father's disappointment, the whispers at church, the way the company contracts dried up when old Mr. Henderson's son came out last year, it all clamped his mouth shut. Instead, he heard himself say, "You can't do this to us. Dad will lose it, the business, the family reputation, everything we've built." Leonardo's face hardened. "Since when is my happiness less important than Dad's approval?" The question hung between them, heavier than the rain outside. Malcolm didn't answer then. He simply turned and walked back into the house, the decision already forming like ice in his veins. He would tell their father tomorrow, not out of hate, but to save them all. Or so he told himself, while the guilt gnawed at the edges of his resolve. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows as Margaret flipped pancakes and Robert read the Tribune. Malcolm sat across from Leonardo, their usual twin synchronicity replaced by a wall of silence. When Robert asked about the weekend plans, Malcolm cleared his throat. "Dad, I need to talk to you after breakfast. Alone." Leonardo shot him a look sharp as a blade but said nothing. Emily glanced between them, sensing the shift, but stayed quiet. In the study lined with leather-bound books and golf trophies, Malcolm closed the door. "It's Leonardo. He's involved with a guy. Ryan from work. I saw them." Robert's face went from confusion to thunder in seconds. "What are you saying, son?" Malcolm swallowed the lie forming easily on his tongue. "I think he needs help, Dad. Intervention before it ruins everything." He didn't mention his own sleepless nights or the way Ryan's hand on Leonardo's waist had stirred something dangerous in his chest. Robert nodded, once jaw tight. "You did the right thing protecting the family, Malcolm. We'll handle this tonight." Malcolm left the study feeling both relieved and sick. He had chosen. Now the consequences would unfold whether he was ready or not. That evening the Reed family gathered in the living room under the glow of the chandelier Margaret had polished that afternoon. Leonardo arrived late from the studio, his paint-splattered jeans a stark contrast to the pressed shirts everyone else wore. Robert wasted no time. "Son, we need to talk about the choices you're making." Leonardo's eyes flicked to Malcolm, betrayal flashing across his face like lightning. "Malcolm told you. It wasn't a question. Margaret's hand flew to her mouth. Emily froze on the couch, phone slipping from her fingers. Robert stood pacing, the words coming out clipped and cold. This isn't who we are, Leonardo. You have responsibilities to this family, to the company. We can get you counseling, fix this before it spreads. Leonardo rose slowly, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. There's nothing to fix, Dad. I'm gay. I've always been gay, and Ryan makes me happy in a way none of your expectations ever could. The room erupted. Margaret began to cry softly. Emily demanded answers, and Robert's voice boomed about sin and legacy. Malcolm sat silent, watching his brother stand alone, the twin who had once taken the blame for Malcolm's broken window, now facing exile. Guilt clawed at him, but he pushed it down, telling himself it was necessary. Later, in their old bedroom, Leonardo packed a duffel bag without looking at him. You chose them over me, Mal. After everything we shared, the nights we talked about running away from Dad's rules. I thought we were in this together. Malcolm opened his mouth, but the words wouldn't come. Leonardo zipped the bag. I'm moving to the city tomorrow. Don't call me. The door clicked shut, and Malcolm sank onto his childhood bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars they had stuck on the ceiling at age 10. The family began to fracture immediately. Robert canceled the company picnic, Margaret stopped baking, Emily retreated into textbooks, and Malcolm threw himself into work, proposing to Sarah that weekend in a desperate bid to prove he was the good son. Yet every ring he slipped on her finger felt like another chain. Weeks turned into months. Leonardo's absence left a hole no one spoke about. Malcolm drove past Ryan's apartment once just to see if his brother's car was there, the jealousy surprising him with its sharpness. He told himself it was protectiveness, but deep down he knew it was envy for the courage he lacked. At the office, whispers started after Robert quietly removed Leonardo's name from the website. Clients asked questions. Margaret's doctor visits increased, her blood pressure climbing with every unanswered text to her son. One night Malcolm found his mother in the kitchen clutching a photo of the twins at their high school graduation. I just want my boys back, she whispered. Malcolm hugged her, but the weight of his secret pressed harder. He had betrayed Leonardo to save the family, yet the family was crumbling anyway, piece by piece, and he was the one holding the hammer. The first crack became a chasm when Robert suffered a mild heart attack 3 months after Leonardo left. The hospital waiting room smelled of antiseptic and regret. Margaret sat pale, hands twisting a tissue, while Emily paced and Malcolm stared at the linoleum. This is what your brother's choices did, Robert rasped from the bed later, his voice weaker but eyes still hard. Malcolm nodded, but inside he replayed the garage conversation, wondering if silence would have changed anything. Leonardo didn't come to the hospital. Malcolm texted him once, Dad's sick. He asked for you. The reply was short. Tell him I'm living my truth. That's all I can give. The words stung like salt in an open wound. Emily confronted Malcolm in the parking lot afterward. You outed him, didn't you? I heard you and Dad that morning. How could you betray your own twin? Her accusation hung in the cold Chicago air, and for the first time Malcolm couldn't deflect. He drove home alone, the empty passenger seat mocking him. In the city, Leonardo thrived in ways that both inspired and tormented Malcolm through occasional social media glimpses. New apartment in Wicker Park, art shows featuring bold, colorful pieces of men embracing under city lights. Ryan's name appeared less and less, replaced by mentions of gallery openings and a supportive circle of friends Malcolm had never met. Malcolm scrolled late at night, Sarah asleep beside him, her even breathing a reminder of the life he had chosen. His own sketches hidden in a drawer remained unfinished, portraits of men whose faces looked suspiciously like his brother's reflection. The company suffered next. 2 major contracts pulled out after rumors of family issues reached the old boys network. Robert raged from his recliner, recovery slow and bitter. Margaret's anxiety turned into panic attacks requiring medication. Emily announced she was applying to schools out of state, anything to escape the tension. Malcolm proposed to Sarah officially at Christmas dinner, the ring sparkling under the same tree where they once opened matching bikes as kids. The applause felt hollow. New Year's Eve, Malcolm stood on the back porch alone, fireworks lighting the sky, while inside Sarah chatted with his parents. He pulled out his phone and typed a message to Leonardo he never sent. I'm sorry. I was scared too. Deleting it, he walked back inside the warmth, doing nothing to thaw the ice around his heart. The betrayal he had started was now a living thing feeding on every silence, every forced smile. By spring, Malcolm's carefully constructed life began to unravel. Sarah sensed the distance, canceling their wedding venue tour after he flinched at her casual mention of starting a family. "You're not here, Mal," she said one rainy evening, the same kind of rain that had started everything. He didn't argue. Work became his refuge, long hours at the office where no one asked about Leonardo. Yet late nights brought dreams of his brother's face, the hurt in those familiar eyes. Leonardo, meanwhile, had moved beyond survival. In a small gallery on the north side, he stood beside his latest painting, a massive canvas of two shadowed figures reaching across a divide. The opening was packed with laughter, clinking glasses, and men who hugged without hesitation. Ryan had become a friend, not a lover, but the community embraced Leonardo, wrapping him in the acceptance his blood family withheld. He dated, casually learned to cook Thai food, and joined a support group where stories of other gay sons mirrored his own. Still, the ache for Malcolm never fully left. Twins shared more than DNA, they shared an invisible tether that distance couldn't sever. Back home, Emily called Malcolm from college in California. "I visited Leo last weekend. He looks happy, healthier than I've seen him in years. He asked about you." The words landed like stones. Malcolm hung up and drove to the old basketball court behind the house, shooting hoops until his arms burned. Each swish echoed with memories of one-on-one games where losing meant buying ice cream. He missed his brother with a ferocity that surprised him. The pivotal moment came at their father's company anniversary party. Robert insisted on a grand event to prove the family was fine. Malcolm stood in a suit greeting clients while Margaret smiled through exhaustion. Halfway through the night, Robert pulled him aside. "Your brother's choices nearly cost us everything, but you held the line, son. I'm proud of you." The praise tasted like ash. Malcolm excused himself to the bathroom, splashing water on his face, staring at the mirror where Leonardo's eyes stared back. In that moment, he knew the decision to betray had been about his own fear, not family protection. That night, he booked a flight to New York for a supposed business trip. Really, he needed air. In the airport lounge, he opened his laptop and finally typed the message. "I was wrong. Can we talk?" He hit send before he could delete it. Leonardo's reply came 2 days later while Malcolm sat in a Manhattan hotel overlooking Central Park. "Meet me at the gallery tomorrow, 7 p.m. No promises." The words were brief, but they cracked the dam Malcolm had built. He spent the next 24 hours rehearsing apologies, walking the city streets where strangers held hands openly without fear. The gallery buzzed with evening energy when Malcolm arrived. Leonardo stood by his painting, the one of divided figures, now titled Tether. He looked different, stronger shoulders, relaxed eyes clear. They stepped outside to a quiet bench. "You outed me to save your own secret, didn't you?" Leonardo asked without accusation. Malcolm nodded, tears he hadn't cried in years stinging. "I was terrified Dad would look at me the same way. I thought if I made you the problem, mine would stay buried." Leonardo listened without interrupting, then shared his own journey, the nights he cried in Ryan's arms, the therapy that helped him forgive himself first. "I was angry for months, Mal, but I realized you were trapped too. We both were." They talked until the gallery lights dimmed, covering years of missed birthdays, inside jokes, and the quiet terror of hiding. Malcolm confessed the fake engagement, the panic attacks he hid from everyone. Leonardo offered no quick fix but extended an invitation. "Come to my place tomorrow. Meet my friends. See what life looks like without the fear." Back in Chicago, the family sensed the shift. Margaret noticed Malcolm's lighter step and gently asked if he had spoken to his brother. Robert remained silent but didn't object when Malcolm skipped the weekly golf game. Emily texted daily updates from California, cheering the reunion. Yet healing wasn't linear. At a family dinner, Malcolm finally spoke. "I betrayed Leo because I couldn't accept myself. I'm gay too." The table fell silent. Margaret reached for his hand. Robert stared at his plate, but no one left. It was a beginning. Leonardo flew home for the weekend. The twins sat on the porch like old times, sharing a six-pack and stories. The betrayal had cost them years, but it also forced truths into the light. Friendships formed, new ones with Ryan, who visited and laughed about old misunderstandings. Society's pressures still lingered in sideways glances at work, but Malcolm started therapy and slowly dismantled the walls. Summer brought the family to a fragile peace. Leonardo's gallery show in Chicago featured pieces inspired by their journey, one canvas simply titled Brothers, showing two figures back to back yet connected by a single golden thread. Malcolm attended with Sarah, now a close friend after their amicable breakup. Robert shook Leonardo's hand at the opening, the first contact in over a year. "I don't understand it all," he admitted, "but I'm trying." Margaret hugged both sons, tears mixing with smiles. Emily captured the moment on her phone, posting it with the caption, "Healing looks different for everyone." Malcolm moved into his own apartment downtown, closer to the city's vibrant scene. He dated a kind accountant named Alex, taking things slow, learning to hold hands in public without scanning for judgment. Leonardo stayed in his Wicker Park life but visited monthly, the twin bond mending stitch by stitch. They argued still over small things, whose turn to pick the movie, whose playlist was better, but the arguments ended in laughter instead of silence. One crisp autumn evening the brothers stood on the Navy Pier watching the Ferris wheel turn against the lake. "I never thought we'd get here," Malcolm said. Leonardo bumped his shoulder. "Me neither. But betrayal taught us both what family really means, choosing each other even when it's hard." They watched the city lights reflect on the water, the weight of the past lifting like fog at dawn. The Reed family would never be the same picture-perfect unit from childhood photos, yet in its brokenness it had grown stronger, more honest, more human. Malcolm finally understood that protecting the family sometimes meant tearing it down first so something real could rise. True or false? Betraying your twin brother's trust to protect the family was ultimately the right choice?